Today on The Hookup, I'm going to show you how I completed this high-tech patio remodel quoted to me for over $50,000 for just $8,500, including a 16-foot bar with LED inlays, a built-in griddle and refrigerator, and a huge motorized aluminum pergola. My family and I spend as much time on our patio as we do in our house, and the quarantine has significantly increased that usage. So, since I'm fortunate enough to not only have a steady job as a high school teacher, but also some extra income from YouTube, my wife and I decided to go ahead with the patio remodel of our dreams. We were super excited when we started the process, and we knew that things weren't going to be cheap, but we decided we were going to treat ourselves and that no expense would be spared. We worked with some really friendly outdoor kitchen and patio contractors in the Tampa area, and they mocked up some drawings for our new patio paradise. Unfortunately, even though I told myself that nothing would be out of budget, the two $50,000 plus estimates quickly changed my mind. In this video, I'm going to show you the modifications that I made to the original plans to save money and make them more DIY friendly. I'll show you exactly how much I spent on materials and how much it saved me. And I'm also going to give you an honest estimate on my time investment. Fair warning, I am not an expert in any of these things, but I do have a few less common tools that I absolutely utilized in this project. Namely, a MIG welder, a decent quality angle grinder, and a hammer drill. The first thing I like to do when starting any project of this size is make myself a 3D model so I can get a feel for the space and measurements before committing to any dimensions. I use SketchUp, which is a fairly easy to learn, free and web-based modeling program, and I started by measuring and modeling my existing patio structure. Then I experimented with different sizes of countertops to get a feel for how they would fill the space. The contractor's plan had a large counter height peninsula under our existing lanai and then an elevated bar overhang on the pool side. But I decided to change that up to make the entire countertop counter height with the grill on a slightly lower level. Not only would this allow people to sit at both sides of the counter and pass the stools under the structure, but it's going to save me a significant amount of money on the ledge stone covering that would have otherwise needed to cover this now open space. In fact, the contractor estimated $4,500 for ledge stone, and my total cost for tile was just under $400, including the rental of a wet saw. The contractor was also going to use pre-built cabinet units with aluminum framing covered in cement board. Aluminum is great for outdoor spaces because it doesn't rust, but it's expensive, it's hard to weld, and it's not as strong as steel for the same thickness. Since my bar structure is going to be covered and shielded from the weather for the most part, I decided to take a chance and just use steel, which I painted with a thick coat of oil-based paint on all surfaces to help seal out the moisture and hopefully prevent rusting. I used 1-inch square tubing, 1-inch angle iron, and 1-inch flat stock to create the frame for my bar and grill, and I welded all the joints together using a standard MIG welder. I am far from an expert welder, but even a novice can make strong welds after a few hours of practice. They might not be as pretty as a professional can make, but they definitely get the job done. I had originally planned to try and span the countertop without a center support, but after doing a little more research and discovering how heavy concrete countertops are, I decided to err on the safe side and add that center support. The contractor's estimate for the bar and grill structure with tile was $9,627, and I spent $203 for steel, $30 for cement board, and $400 for tile. A total of $634, which brings my total savings so far to $8,993 for just a small portion of the project. I spent a total of 25 hours over the course of 5 days building, painting, installing, and tiling the bar structure. Next was appliances, and let me preface this by saying that I know that I didn't end up with the same quality of appliances that the contractor was sourcing from Blaze, but my inner cheapskate just couldn't justify the hit. Actually, even after deciding to DIY everything, I was still planning on buying the Blaze appliances, but the thing that ultimately broke me was the cost of the stainless steel cabinet doors. The total cost of the appliances from Blaze, which are nice but definitely not top of the line, was going to be $6,170. In contrast, the flat top griddle that I was planning on purchasing before we decided on this remodel was a Blackstone Pro 28-inch griddle, which is $274 over at Walmart. Again, the thing that ultimately broke me was the fact that the entire Blackstone griddle was only $14 more than a single set of Blaze stainless steel doors. So after embracing my inner cheapskate, I decided to just make the Blackstone into a built-in. I still needed one access door for behind the grill where I have all the electronics for the LEDs and shades on my patio, but I was able to salvage the stainless steel access door from my 10-year-old broken stainless steel grill and made a makeshift hinge out of some steel flat stock. I didn't save too much money on the fridge, and I just ended up ordering an outdoor rated one from Amazon for $700. But the vent hood was still stumping me. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled with how the vent hood looked in the original mock-up from the contractor, and it seemed really bulky in my small enclosed lanai space. I ended up buying a $67 12-inch 940 CFM exhaust fan to mount behind the grill, and it works amazingly well. I had originally intended on ducting it closer to the grill, but I really don't think that's necessary, and it does a great job of keeping the smoke out of the lanai space. I did have to buy a length of aluminum framing to mount the fan in my existing screen enclosure, so we can add $33 to the total, and my appliance costs ended up at $1,074, saving me a total of $5,096 and bringing my total savings just over $14,000. I also ran the electrical for the refrigerator myself, and I junctioned it from an existing patio GFCI 15 amp outdoor outlet. The contractor estimated $1,500 for electrical, and I spent a total of $160 on wire, conduit, outlets, and a conduit bender. And that all saved me an additional $1,340. Another huge expense in the contractor's estimate was granite countertops. The contractor was going to put granite on the entire countertop as well as the bar overhang. The estimated cost was $5,900, including installation, which seems pretty fair for my area. Granite isn't the kind of thing that you can easily do yourself, so instead I decided to go with concrete countertops. And, of course, I had to embed some LEDs in them for a little bit of extra flair. After watching just about every video on YouTube that even mentioned concrete countertops, I felt more or less prepared to handle the job. I tried to hit all the major points from the concrete countertop YouTube videos. I used silicone to seal the edges, I vibrated the mold to release the bubbles, and then I filled the small pinholes with a cement slurry. After a huge boost in confidence when my first slabs turned out almost perfect, I was ready to tackle the big slabs. But I was also getting ready to go on a week-long vacation with my family, and I wanted to get the big slabs poured before we left so they could start curing. I finished the molds the night before we were supposed to leave, and then I woke up early the next day to start mixing and pouring concrete. This was a terrible idea. You should never ever be in a hurry when you're working with concrete. Not only was I rushing, but I stupidly decided to cheap out and not rent a concrete mixer for the 700 pounds of concrete that I needed to pour. Things seemed fine during the pour, but after getting back from vacation, I demolded the slabs and they were a mess. Each slab had multiple locations where the concrete didn't mix properly, which resulted in a crumbly mess. I knew that I couldn't just leave it that way, so I attempted to scrape away any of the bad areas and then patch it with Portland cement. I'm not sure if it's just my lack of skill or if it's not even possible to do well, but the patches looked unacceptably terrible. So, standing in my garage looking at 700 pounds of wasted concrete, I decided to just say screw it and lean into my mistakes. I grabbed an angle grinder with a flap disc, a drill with a wire wheel, and a chisel, and I cleaned out every single void and patch, with the new idea to fill them with epoxy and let people see my mistakes. In my opinion, this was the best decision that I made in the entire project, and I think it turned out great. It makes the countertops look super interesting and unique instead of just being a huge slab. I also screwed up one of the LED channels during the pour because the hot glue holding the melamine strip broke off and caused the channel to veer off to the right instead of staying parallel. Again, I decided to just lean into my mistake and make that area the most visible end of the countertop. I then feathered out the crooked end with my angle grinder to make it look more organic, and it was a definite Bob Ross moment that turned out great. Inside the channels, I've got WS13 individually addressable LEDs, and I also mounted the strips inside aluminum channels with the diffuser on. I did my best to seal up the seams so I could theoretically pull the strips out from one side if I ever needed to change them. And the aluminum channel and air gap should theoretically make them less susceptible to heat death than if I just encased them directly in epoxy. I also used some opal mica powder in my epoxy to help diffuse the LED light a bit more, but I wish I would have made the diffusing layer a little bit thicker because the individual LEDs are definitely still noticeable. Finishing the epoxy was the most labor-intensive part of the entire project. I bought a bunch of tools that were mentioned in different YouTube videos, like a handheld scraper and a heavy grit belt sander, both of which still took forever. If I had to do it all again, I'd use the stone coat countertop method and get a metal sanding disc for my angle grinder. After getting all the excess epoxy off, I sanded the slabs down to 320 grit, and I recruited 5 friends and neighbors to help me move them into place. And even though there was only 350 pounds of concrete in each slab, they felt significantly heavier than that. Once the countertops were in place, I sealed them with a few coats of food-safe sealant from Chang's, and then I filled the gap between the two countertop sections with black silicone. Overall, I spent $557, and almost half of that was for the LED feature. But in the end, I have a one-of-a-kind countertop that may not be for everybody, but it definitely fits in with the rest of my patio, and I saved $5,343 in the process, bringing my total savings well over $20,000. As I mentioned, the countertop was definitely both time and labor intensive. And start to finish, this took me about 26 hours of hard and skilled labor. I'm happy with the results, but I definitely wouldn't recommend this portion to the faint of heart. All right, on to the biggest ticket item, the motorized aluminum pergola. The one that was going to be installed by my local contractor was made by a company called Structure, and the quoted price was $22,500 or $125 a square foot of coverage, which was honestly way too much for me. Luckily, on Alibaba, I found a factory in China called Alunotech that specializes in motorized aluminum structures, and I was really excited when their quote was just over $3,000 for the pergola itself, and then shipping from China was only $440, which probably should have raised a red flag. What I didn't understand at the time was the huge difference between shipping and importing, and I had no idea how much additional headache it would be. In addition to the dozens of emails and forms for things like customs, importer security filings, and port agreements, I was blindsided by the $2,325 of extra fees that were never mentioned by Alunotech. Still, the Alunotech product did offer some major advantages over the Structure one. First, the Structure product can only be modified in 2-foot increments. So 10 by 10, 12 by 10, 8 by 12, you get the idea. But the Alunotech sales rep wanted precise measurements down to the millimeter. So by using Alunotech, I was able to fit the pergola exactly in between my existing lanai and screen enclosure with no open spaces on the side. But it also meant that any errors in measurement would have been catastrophic. And second, the Alunotech structural aluminum pieces are reinforced on the inside, which makes them a little bit more rigid, and the louvers have a different design that's much more solidly built, which I think helps to reduce noise when they're moving and during heavy rain. Overall, I'm really happy with the Alunotech pergola, but they definitely don't get my full recommendation. First, I feel like they really should give people a heads up on the customs and importing fees. And second, you definitely shouldn't buy their built-in LED package, which is high voltage, ungrounded, and poorly waterproofed. Not really the kind of thing that you want to have outdoors attached to a giant metal structure. So, of course, I ripped it out and I did my own thing. All in all, it took about 90 days from ordering to delivery, which is not terrible by any means, but it's also not fast. And even though the total cost of the pergola, including the extra fees, was $6,105, which is 62% more than the original price quoted by Alunotech, it still saved me around $16,500 compared to my contractor's estimate. The install process took me about 18 hours in total, and I had a friend help me for 2 hours of that. So we'll just call it 20 hours of moderately skilled labor that felt mostly like putting together a really large, heavy piece of IKEA furniture. The last part of the project was lighting, which the original contractor was going to install for $1,500. I ended up opting for 24-volt RGBW LED strips around the entire perimeter of both the pergola and the existing lanai. I spent $162 on LED strips, $100 on 45-degree aluminum channels, and $100 for a Meanwell power supply, Shelly RGBW2, and a weatherproof box for the electrical. The LED install took about 4 hours, and it does an amazing job lighting up the space evenly. The lighting was the cherry on top of this project, and it gives it a really luxury feel, and it brought my final cost up to $8,492 and my savings to $38,510. Interestingly enough, the contractor quoted me for 80 hours of labor at an even $3,000, and even doing everything myself from scratch, it only took me 81 hours. If you ever want to feel good about yourself at the end of a project, try calculating your hourly wage based on the money that you saved. In my case, I saved over $41,500 for my 81 hours of work, which comes out to a bit over $500 an hour. If you make $500 an hour at your job, I'd recommend just putting in some overtime and leaving the patio installed to the professionals. But for everyone else, DIY can get you that Ferrari lifestyle on a Honda paycheck. If you got any great ideas from this video for your patio, please hit that thumbs up button so YouTube knows it's a good video that should get shared with others. If you've got any questions about this build, feel free to leave a comment or come join me on the Hookup Home Automation Facebook group where I can more easily post pictures and videos. Thank you so much to my awesome patrons over at Patreon for your continued support of my channel and for keeping me motivated to continue to produce interesting content. If you're interested in supporting my channel, please check out the links down in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing. And as always, thanks for watching the Hookup.